In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to combine two applique designs step by step, two different ways. If you've ever felt nervous or unsure about applique, this is the perfect place to start and get beautiful results. Did you know that 90% of successful embroidery comes down to how well the design is made? If you're new and don't understand how designs actually work, you're going to keep messing up, wasting time, wasting thread, and ruining good fabric. That's why we made the 101 Digitizing course. It's free, it's fast, and it gives you the core theory every embroiderer needs. Even if you never plan to digitize, this is the stuff you need to know if you want clean, professional results. Get started today by clicking the link in the description. Keep this simple. I'm just going to take a couple of shapes within the software that are built in, and I'm going to go and use my artwork tool. I'm going to use the heart shape, and I'm just going to draw a heart, and I can choose a color. It really doesn't matter what color it is, but I'm going to make this about 4 inches in height. So this is 5 inches right now. I'm just going to select that. I can go to my properties and I will just transform this and make it about 4 inches in height, so I have a guideline as far as how big this design is going to be. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that one, I'm going to duplicate it and nudge it over, and I'll just kind of flip it the other way, something like that. And I'll just have 2 connecting hearts like that. And that's, pretty much good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. Now at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 2 hearts and I'm going to make them 2 separate colors so that I have 2 different pieces or 2 different objects. And then we're going to do this 2 ways. We're going to have one applique laid down with 2 hearts sewn, but we need to kind of, figure out this overlapping. But then I also want to have 2 hearts, one maybe that's pink and one that's red with different colored borders. So the way I'm going to go about doing this will be completely different. So I'm going to duplicate and nudge those 2 as well, move them over so that I have now all of these hearts placed on my screen. And the 2 that are highlighted, I'm just going to lock them into place for now, and we'll get to those ones later. And we'll work on the first set of hearts, which I'll just zoom in a little bit so you can see. And we're going to make this one so that it's one applique that actually has, this heart underneath going down first and this heart going over top. It's going to be all the same color applique, all the same color borders. And how we need to do this is to create it so that we get rid of one of the lines, but for the actual outline and tack down, we need to also make sure that those are just outlining the object itself. We don't want any of the intersections that are happening. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this right now and we're going to grab those 2 objects and we're going to duplicate those again. So I'm going to duplicate them. I'm not going to nudge them, but I'm just going to duplicate them, and I'm going to change them to a completely different color. I'll change those to black. So now we have one color that's black. I have both of them selected, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to weld these together. So under my artwork edit, I'm just going to weld them together, and now I have one piece that's just completely welded. And I'm going to take that piece and move it to the very beginning of my object. So I can see now that I have this one here, I have this one here. These are all artwork paths right now, and I have one that's welded together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an applique from this. And I'm going to create the applique just simply by hitting applique, and it's going to create a applique shape. At this point, I can make this applique however wide I want. So if I want to have a 5mm border around the outside of this applique, or if I want it to have a zigzag stitch as well, I can just click on zigzag, but I can do anything that I want. I'm not going to use a zigzag for this. I'm just going to keep it as a regular placement and tack down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to tell it to break apart my applique. And when it breaks apart the applique, now we're going to see that we have 1, 2, 3 different pieces. I'm going to unselect these 2 and just select this one and tell it to delete that object. So when I delete that object, now when I look at my 3D, I have my first run path. It's a run stitch that actually is the outline of the applique, and then I have my second one, which is the tack down, and this will go around 2 times. So we've already created the base that we need for that one shape, and now all we have to do is create each of the objects or the layers that are going over top. So I'm going to grab this first layer and I'm just going to highlight it, And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my shape edit tools, and there's one here that says slice open. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to click, and I'm just going to slice that one open all the way across, and then I'm going to right click. So I left clicked all those pieces. I'm going to right click, and what it's going to do is it's going to take that shape and it's separated the two pieces. So now I have two separate pieces, and I'm just going to get rid or delete this second piece. So now if I look at this, I have an object here and an object here, and I can make both of those the same color now. So I'm going to, actually maybe I won't, maybe I'll keep it separate colors for now, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and I'm going to convert this to a steil. So there's my steil stitch, and I said I wanted to have that 5 millimeters, let's say. So I'm going to do a 5 millimeter width for that steil, and there we go. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to take the second piece here, and I'm going to tell that one to be a steil as well. And I'm going to set this one to a steil, and I'll make that 5 millimeters as well. So now I have a 5 millimeter finishing stitch. And at this point, what I can do is I can come in, take both of those colors, and I could keep them separate, you know, if I wanted two separate colors, but if I want them both the same, all I'm going to do is select one color for both. And that is going to give me one color that is going to be there for both of them. Now, there's a whole bunch of things that I could do at this point. I could add, more borders around that, meaning a bean stitch or motif or whatever I want. But we're going to keep this pretty simple. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at these two objects. I'm going to look at this one first, and let's turn off the 3D, and I'm going to hit the Q key, which is my editing, and I'm going to see that I start here and I finish here. And then when I look at my next object, I am going to start here and finish. Actually, that's the wrong object. That is the object that I selected is the path around the outside. So I'm going to grab this one, and I'm going to hit the Q key. And I can see that I start here. So I want to start where I finished, and I'm going to finish over at the other side. So I can see where I finished over here. So I could start and finish in the same place, and that way I reduced all my trim. So if I look at this object here, my start, there's my start, and there's my finish. And this one here, I want to actually move it up to here. So there's my start, and there's my finish. And now I have no trims within this design. It's going to actually sew nice and smoothly. Now, the other thing that I do want to look at, because this is a 5 millimeter stitch, and I can see how, I might want a really sharp angle on this, or I might want it actually turned. So I could grab both of these objects, this one, and I can go to my properties, and under my angles, I can do some, customization. Basically, I could, round these two out a little bit so I have a nice rounded edge. And even on the bottom here, it's going to give me a rounded edge on the bottom of this object. So that's just sort of giving me a little bit of a shorter stitch length, so it's not going to be quite as bold. There's all kinds of different things that you can do within the settings, but this is going to be an applique. When you watch it sew, you're going to see that it's going to do the very first outline, which we can see here, and this is the outline stitch. And then after it finishes the outline, that's when you lay your material down. You can also export this as an SVG file, and then you just place it over the outline. And if it's a cut file, or if you're going to cut it by hand, it goes around 2 times, and then it's going to do the finishing stitches, and everything is going to be perfect. So that's a pretty fast and easy way to do a double applique using one piece of fabric. It looks like 2 separate objects, but again, we've done them in such a way so they do not, cross over unnaturally. One looks under and one looks over. I just created, and I'm going to lock them in place as well. And then I'm going to take these 2 that are locked in place, and I'm going to unlock them. That way now I can move over and we can do this. And this one we're going to do differently again. We're going to make sure that we have 2 different appliques, but this time we're going to have 2 different objects. So we're going to have an applique, let's say pink on this side and red on the other. So now I'm going to handle this a little bit differently, but I'm going to start out with the same kind of core foundation in that I'm going to take those two and I am going to duplicate them so that they are going to be duplicated. And then with those duplicated objects, now I can come in here and I can do something a little bit different. And I'm going to go into my artwork mode, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to actually do a trim. So now I have a trimmed object. And if I look at this little piece right here, there is my within this one here, here is my first object and here is my second object. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that color, the entire color, so let's select it, and I'm going to bring it back up to the beginning right now. So I'll bring it right back up to here, and that way I can treat these two separately. And when I do this, I'm going to grab this piece right here, and I'm going to tell it to, again, let's make it a different color just so that we have some variance between the two objects. So there's the first one. I'm going to tell this one to be an applique. So I'm going to go and click on my applique. It really doesn't matter what size the applique is, because as far as the width of the stitch, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on it, I'm going to break it apart, and then I'm going to take that very last color. So within the applique, I have my run path, and then I have, which is my outline, I have my second one, which is my tack down. So I'm going to unselect those two, and then I'll just delete this one. So there is my run path for the first piece. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this object right here, which is that one, and I can see that it's the same color right now, magenta. I'm going to make this a completely different color, so I'll make it pink, and I'm going to put it up in the order right now so that I can, actually, no, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll do all the appliques first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have that applique, then I'm going to move this up into the order so I have that piece done. And what it's going to do is it's going to take this, and I'm going to do that as a steil. So I have that steil. I will make this, let's say, 5 millimeters in width, just like I did the other one. And then I'm going to come into my tools again, and I'm going to slice open this so that if I turn off the 3D, and I'm just going to click right here, and I'm left clicking all the way across, and I'm slicing this, and then I'll right click to finish it. And now, because it is sliced, when I grab that piece, I can delete it, and there is the first piece that's done. So that is the first applique that's being laid down. Then I'm going to take this piece here, and this one I'm going to convert to an applique as well. And this one, again, I just have to right click onto it, break it apart, and then I'm going to unselect the outline and the tack down stitch, and I'll just delete that finishing stitch. So I'm going to delete it, and then I'm going to take this last color, which is just artwork, and I'm going to tell it to be a steil stitch, which is a fixed width satin, and then I can come in and take this and make it to 5 millimeters, and now I have two separate appliques. So when I look at how this is going to sew, it's going to, and I'll just fast forward past the first one that we did. Now it's going to do the applique, and it's doing an outline and tack down. Then it's doing the finishing stitches on this. Then it's going to do the second applique, outline and tack down, and the finishing stitches for the second. So there is two different ways, slightly different, but using the same tools. And again, if I do want to modify anything within this design, I could go in and, I mean, just to give you an idea, as I'm looking through this, I'm going to just come here and let's take this object right here, okay? And let's grab this one right here. So here is the object, and I'm going to take this one. That is the running stitch, so I'm going to get rid of that one. I'm going to take this object here, and what I can do with that is I can just duplicate that object, and because it is an actual, I can see there's two satin stitches now on top of each other. I can take this and I can say, you know what, I want to convert this to a run stitch, and if I convert it to a run, then I can convert it to a bean stitch. I could make this a 4 millimeter bean stitch with 5 passes of thread. And if I look at this on screen now, and I look at the second color, I could take that color and I could make it a completely different color, a light pink, and now I have a bean stitch that's going to stitch over top of that. And I could do the same thing with this object here, not that one, but the actual finishing one. I could take that object right there, and I could duplicate that one as well. So when I'm here, I just duplicate it, and then I could come here and take that second piece, make it into a run stitch. I'm going to change the color, so I'm going to make it into darker color this time, and I'm going to go into the actual properties, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'll make this a bean stitch with 5 passes of thread and make it 4 millimeters long, and now I have a really cool design that has a run with a bean stitch, and that can be changed from a bean to a run stitch to a motif to anything you want. So you really have no limitations with regards to what you can do with these objects. Anything you can imagine in stitches, you can do with the software. If you've enjoyed this video and are ready to start creating, you'll love the Embroidery Legacy software. It makes creating your own design simple, and we've built in expert training to guide you every step of the way. Check out the link in the description if you're ready to take the next step in your embroidery journey.